Sally, how can letting agents use all this legislation to their advantage?
Well, I think one of the key things over the last couple of decades is that if you think about it, going from 2010, let's say, when the government started to really impose quite a lot of legislation on us, let's think about what letting agents have done. So, you know, we had the gas regulations came out in 1994, the fire and furniture regulations 1994, and then we had the Housing Act 2004, which brought out deposit registration, the HHSRS. We've then had the Immigration Act changes that have come out, about the deregulation. And think about over the years, what's happened over the last 2 decades, letting agents just gone, don't worry, Mr. Landlord, I'll do that for you. Don't worry, Mr. Landlord, I'll raise your deposit for you. Don't worry, Mr. Landlord, I'll check the immigration status. Don't worry, Mr. Landlord, I'll test the smoke alarm on the day of moving. Don't worry, Mr. Landlord, I'll serve the how to rent guide and make sure we've got evidence of all the notices that we've served on moving. Mr. Landlord, don't worry, we'll take care of all that for you. The biggest challenge we have is that over the last 2 decades, we have just assumed this responsibility, but not communicated it to our landlords. We've not gone to Mr. Landlord, do you realise we are now having to do this, that, the other? We've just consumed all this extra work and not even charged.
We're not proving our worth to landlords?
We're not proving our worth, but we're not demonstrating what we're doing. And what I'm finding, and I speak to literally thousands of agents across the country, I'm speaking to landlords all the time, and what I'm seeing is the landlords and the general consensus out there is what letting agents do is we find a tenant, just
whack a board in the ground and chuck it on Rightmove.
Yeah, that's what they think. I mean, the amount of times that in press interviews I've been asked, but Sally, all you do is photocopy a piece of paper. I love that statement because it's just so not what we do. I mean, it's 17 hours of work just to move somebody into a property, and yet the belief is all we do is photocopy a bit of paper, and that's the biggest challenge we have right now, belief versus reality.
How do we get that message across as an industry to landlords that we put all that work in and we're worth our money?
We've got to start getting better. We've got, as letting agents, we've got to understand the legislation inside out. We've got to use it. We've got to talk about it. We've got to explain it. It's not about how great we are as a letting agent, how many awards we've won, how brilliant we look. It's basically about what we know. And that's what's got to change. We've got to start talking about it and communicating it. And traditionally we don't. We talk about our services, our awards, our CMP or whatever, but we don't talk about what we know. And I think if we started to communicate what we know and started to educate landlords of what they don't know, we'd start to see a very different reaction.
And being ARLA President, you'd have seen a lot of letting agents. Have you seen some good examples of that around the country?
Of good letting agents?
Getting that message across?
Yeah, I mean, there are some letting agents that do a really, really good job of this. And I think the key is training, educating your team, educating your staff, making sure the people at the front understand the legislation inside out. See, what is probably more common is that the back-end team, the head office team, the CEO, the director, the managers, the compliance director, the property management team, etc., understand fully all the layers and layers of legislation, and yet the negotiators and listers at the front are just salespeople. And that's the big problem. We've got to take that education, that knowledge from here down to the front-end team, because it's point of sale that they need that information.
How do letting agents train their staff? Do you think they train them?
Well, some don't, which is a shame. There's lots of great training out there. I mean, ARLA does some fantastic legislation training. There are other organisations and bodies out that do training. You can do it in-house. I mean, I've always done it in-house personally. We've done a lot of, every week we run, for example, an hour and a half training session, and we take people through all the legislations they need, but we also mix in with that case studies and examples. Do you remember that landlord when, and do you remember that situation when? And it brings the learning alive for them and makes it real. So I think however you choose to do it, it now needs to be done.
Excellent. Thank you very much.
Thank you.